Hello everyone, welcome back to Mental Health Awakening, the specials, which this is the second special with 3 specials in total. So only one more after this, unfortunately. But this episode is going to be a very special episode because everyone who is here today has been on the podcast before with host or co-host. I don't know how this works anymore. I think they're both the same thing, really. They it don't make sense. We have these abbreviations for like co. Let's just say we're both hosts. And then we've got Nick, who's been on a fair few times. So it's nice to have Nick on again, and Kitty has been on a few times as well. Kind of lost count how many times Kitty has been on. Really. But yeah, it's gonna be really cool. So Angela, I'll leave it up to you. Do you want to say anything else? And then we can do our introductions, or you can do your introduction as well.
Hello. I'm Angela T. Jackson. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Tennessee, the USA. Always glad to connect and partner with the UK and just weigh in on conversations that highlight mental wellness overall. Glad to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, like you say, it's very interesting in this episode in particular because we have 2 of us who are from the UK, and then 2 of us are from America. So it's a nice split, and that part. So Nick, would you mind doing an introduction of yourself?
Sure thing, my friend. I am, well, if it's not painfully obvious already, I'm the other American in the group here today. It's a pleasure. One of my passions is talking about mental health. And so I'm really excited to get into the topics today. I'm in Florida, and I guess you could call me a full-time coach. I'm currently going through a VA claim because I used to be in the military. Maybe I can speak on that, how that's affected my mental health as well. But then I've been a scientist, a teacher, and everything in between. So most of my story has been like trying to find something that works for my Crohn's disease. So I'm excited to get into all these topics with you guys today. And I think, yeah, we've all at least had one appearance so far. This is, I think, my second or third maybe.
Yeah, the last time we done one, we actually don't go out to next year because of certain reasons. Some of us may know. Well, I think Nick, you're the only one who knows about that hidden series that comes out next year because we haven't recorded anymore. I think after your episode that we done at the start of the year. But yeah, this is kind of your second appearance, but in the wrong order. But yeah, so Kitty, it's great to have you on again.
I can't count how many times I've been on here, so I'm just gonna say again. Hi guys, my name is Kitty Hemley Tucker. Obviously, I'm from the UK. I grew up with Mason back in school, so I know him for quite a couple of years. I've got autism and hypermobility on the major joints, and it is great to be back again and obviously talking about different topics and stuff like that. So it's amazing to be here again.
Yes, it is great to have you on again, Kitty, because like you say, we've known each other from school. And there's a good mix here today. We've got people from different stories, like school, hypermobility, which is always a hard word to say. Yeah, and then we got Crohn's with Nick, Angela, me. So it's great. So I guess the first question I guess is do we like? I'm going to say an unrelated question here. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I just want to ask it before we start, and then we can talk about the stuff that we can talk about. Does anyone who likes Halloween?
I do.
Yeah, you like Halloween?
Love Halloween.
Yeah.
Massive Halloween fan. Most of my clothes are full of horror stuff. As you can see, I've got a ghost face tattoo.
Yeah.
A couple months ago. So I've been obsessed with horror since I was about 5 or 6. So always been obsessed with it. Like got loads of merch and everything, and every horror movie that comes out, just have to go and see it.
I've got a teddy off the screen. I got in a shop the other week, and it's just
too.
Yes, it sits upon my bed, and then in the dark,
Yeah.
it's scary. Yeah.
That's not so random. I remember we were on just a minute before this, and you mentioned this might go out around the time, 2 or 3 weeks from now. And I was thinking about the calendar. I was looking, I was like, oh, that'd be around Halloween. So as our brains do, I was thinking about like costumes and candy and all sorts of things. So that doesn't feel so random to me. I enjoy the holiday a lot. My tummy sure doesn't.
Yeah, with all the sweets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was an interesting start. I guess that we get into the topic like of mental health, fitness, social health. Like Nick, as we're on you, do you want to talk us around about what you wanted to talk about social health, how that's important?
Sure. Yeah, this is a kind of a more general discussion that I think is accessible to anybody out there. Even if they don't enjoy Halloween, they can probably relate to the fact that most of us have dealt with some mental health issues. And a big component of that, I think, is how after our diagnosis, we're pushed into kind of this social cast without even really realizing it. And as our peers are continuing to grow and develop, both like physically in their healthy bodies and emotionally and socially with other people and their peers, they're not having to worry about the same things. And so not that so much we get pushed to the wayside, we just get pushed to different areas and realms where it becomes difficult to find other people that can relate to us in these other ways. So I wanted to make it a point to whoever's listening that social health is a part of mental health. So getting outside of your comfort zone and trying something new for you, or taking a day off for self-care, should just be as important as it is to reaching out to an old friend or reconnecting with a family member. It doesn't have to be going out and trying to make new friends. That's obviously really anxiety inducing for some people. But reconnecting, maybe like an old conversation that you picked up a long time ago, you can message that person and feel more connected to those around you. The difficulty there, I think maybe we can just discuss this point, is where it turns into trying to meet other people that have chronic illnesses or can relate to us. We're all here right now, so I would say we've all done a great job. But if someone just came across this podcast and is like, okay, where do I go from here? What would you guys say to like try to find a support group or maybe even a friend in person that could relate to what we're doing? Because I think now that I think about it, other than online, I've only made one friend, and that was like while I was in the hospital. So that doesn't really count.
You make some very great points, Nick, as far as like the social health. And I often point out the different levels of self-care, and social self-care is absolutely one of them. You've got your physical self-care, your mental, emotional self-care, spiritual self-care, even spatial, and social is evaluating the relationships in your life, how often you connect, what supports you need, how, as you said, how do you connect and get to the resources and the community that you need to. So some of the things that I would suggest to someone who maybe doesn't have a community outside of online is to look into some of the foundations where they might have local support groups here and there, starting with, sometimes you can find them online. Some are still meeting virtually. I actually am a part of a couple of groups that focus on IBD, chronic illness, Crohn's, colitis, things of that nature. And then some that deal with just chronic pain in general. So a good start also would be talking with your doctors about it. They may have resources in your immediate area. So as a crony of getting ready to be 24 years, I've had a lot of doctor's appointments and lots of conversations, and sometimes I feel comfortable expressing my needs, and then there's the barrier when I don't feel comfortable. So, it may lead me right back to searching online for, okay, where's the closest support group? Is it in person? Is it virtual? Am I well enough to be in person, or, so I think that being online and social media has kind of bridged the gap in terms of resources and community, but definitely asking any providers that you're connected to, and like we did, asking each other, making connection with other people who have the diagnosis similar or just kind of in that family. So yeah, it's very important to seek out supports for social self-care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is very important, right? Because both of you have made very good points around like healthcare, because it is very important. And like when Nick, you said about you only made one friend in the hospital, is not the best of places. But it's hard to make friends, like you say, in general. Um, it is hard because I think it's better to have a few friends, maybe three, that you're close to, rather than you have loads out there, because you lose count, and it's not always nice. It's not always nice because they're just a number um across that line. So it's better you just have a few, like today, I guess.
I was gonna say, I know exactly how that feels because I've always struggled to make friends. Like, people think it's easy, but like there's people out there that find it so hard to even socialize. So obviously when I grew up, I didn't actually start talking until I was about 8 or 9 because I was just so shy, and obviously I just, well, people overthink like, oh my God, like they're not gonna like me, and obviously who'd want to be friends with me. And in primary school I had one friend, and obviously as I went on to more and more schools I made loads of new friends. And then you think to yourself, actually it's actually nice to have some friends. So obviously, like what Mason said, it's better to have just 3 friends. Even if you got one or just 2 friends, that's fine. You don't have to have loads of friends.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I was very similar. Like when I was in primary school, I didn't have no one liked me. I don't know why. I think I know why. It's funny. It was funny because I think we were playing It, that kid game that you'd play It, and basically you just tag on them. It's like tag, and I tag on one, and then I think accidentally they went flying into a bin, and then which weren't my fault because they were running. I don't control how they run, and then ever since then, everyone had a stigma against me saying, "You threw me into the bin." And yeah, ever since then, I always thought people like pretended to be my friend, um, which you shouldn't think like that, but that was me in primary school. And then ever since I went to the school me and Kitty went to, really, I started to make friends. I had like previously went to another school, had this one friend, who eventually went to the school me and Kitty went to. So yeah, it kind of, as you get older, it can be, I guess, easier. Um, but even if you are a really nice person, you could end up with no friends.
I wanted to make a quick point because I really glanced over something, um, but Angela had a great point about like reaching out and using social media in a positive way to make some of those connections. And I glanced over it because we've kind of all done that naturally, maybe because we're here today. But someone at home who was kind of starting that process, first of all, they might be lucky that they've came across this recording in the first place. So number two, I would say stay positive and be careful what you engage with, because there's a really dark side to all of this as well. And it's kind of a prophecy that fulfills itself with your mindset. Like if you're negative about it and you think that there's no hope, you can find those people too and make a connection with those types of people that are out there, I think, and they have those types of accounts. And it can be overly negative. So I think if you're trying to be a beacon of hope for someone like that, you try to want to engage in these types of things instead. And just to be careful with that too. It's important to be supportive, and we all have our bad days, but you don't want to be like a cancer to everyone trying to be so positive and uplift one another.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. Like, I think social media is a good way. It can be a really good platform, but as we know, it can be a very bad platform sometimes. Because we share our stories on there, where you get, I guess it all depends on what your profile is like. If it's private, I guess that has some good ways, and if it's public, you get all these follow requests or messages requests in your messages, and you get all these bots. So it is it's a good thing and a bad thing. But like we said, we wouldn't be here today if we didn't have social media. So and we wouldn't be here if we didn't, like, we got people here today from America, UK. So it's great. It's a great way and to speak online, like the internet. Without the internet, we'd be nowhere, would we? Yeah. Yeah. So going into because a lot of us here like I guess sports, fitness, um, getting out the house when we can. Um, why do we think fitness is important?
I was going to say, I think fitness is very, very important, especially for your body. It's always important to get out the house too, because obviously you can go explore loads of places, you can go meet your family and friends. But obviously, the main thing is it is really good for your mental health to like get out there, do what you want, get loads of exercise, really healthy for your body. Because like if you just stay inside all day, obviously it will make you in like a really, really messy state. Because I went through a phase where I refused to leave the house due to my social anxiety because it was so bad. I didn't want to be around any people. And obviously, as I stayed indoors, it got worse and worse. That I just got so scared. Like even I got asked like go to the food shop, I still refused. Until my brother took me to Colchester Zoo for the day, and honestly, I thought to myself, actually, it is really nice to get loads of fresh air. And obviously, for fitness, it's really good because it keeps your body all healthy, like what I said. So, yeah, I think it's really, really important to obviously get out of the house a lot more and obviously explore more and meet up with your loved ones.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, a day at the zoo is probably an easy 15,000, 20,000 steps. I mean, that's a proper workout.
Mm. Yeah, that is really good.
All that has been said, it's really it's important to be intentional about exercise and physical health. I wish I engaged a little bit more than I do. And I just want to highlight that October has a couple of awarenesses this month. So you've got World Mental Health Day, or either National Mental Health Day, and then there's also a week, World Mental Illness Week. And so when I think in terms of physical health and mental health, right, I really don't like to separate them, right? It's total health, right? They both impact each other. And so speaking of exercise and fitness, there is the factors where that reduce stress, right? It reduces stress. It even boosts esteem. Maybe you have goals set. Maybe it is your stress reliever in general. So there's a lot of things in terms of mental health that physical activity and exercise impacts. So, yeah.
I love it when I get lost. If I go for a walk somewhere and I get lost, I shouldn't love it, but I just like to the adventure of it, and I'll be like, oh no, I'll do some more steps. Um, so it's good. It's a like you say, a trip at the zoo. It's very good, especially if you don't go all the time, because you're not used to it. You're not used to seeing these animals all the time. I'm actually due to go to the zoo, I think, some point this month, for Halloween. But yeah, I've never really gone at Halloween before, so so it's because I have all these. I think they have the ghost train, or they have these Halloweeny stuff going on at the zoo whenever Halloween comes.
Yeah, I think they're doing like Fright Nights or something for Halloween at Colchester Zoo.
Yeah, it is. It's scary. Of the Fright Nights, but yeah, it is. It's just a joy of it, and then like you say, like Nick says, you do about 15,000 steps, walk around the zoo over and over again. Because normally zoos aren't big. If you go to a big one, it might be. But yeah.
Maybe my reference point was American zoos, because I've been to some pretty big American zoos here in the States. And if you spend, all day, which might be 6 to 8 hours there, you're getting plenty of steps in. You get breaks like when you're waiting in the lines and stuff, but between going to the different events and then walking around to see the animals, and then through all the when I go to the aquarium part, that's my favorite. So I like walk down all one side, see all the tanks, then I like walk back and walk down so I don't miss anything, go the other direction. So yeah, I'm sure in the UK it's probably smaller with everything being closer and on top of everything.
Yeah, I think there's a big one in London, and then I think it's called Whipsnade. I think Whipsnade do. I think I might be wrong. I'm always, but the one where I'm from, it's that there's this penguin, not the penguin bit, but the sea bit where you can go through, and then you look up, and it's like you're in this big dome, and then you can see through the water. I think it's where the penguin is, and then you have the different sea life animals, but dolphins or seals. I think they're seals, not dolphins. But yeah, it's I like that. It's always pretty cool. It's like you're there.
Okay, I don't want to get too off track. I'm gonna have to ask you about that after this. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did still have it in my brain too. I wanted to answer your question as well. I think the lady did a great job of expanding on it a little bit more. So I don't know what's left for me to say. Probably just that I want to make a distinction between the actual physical benefit that there is, and then the esoteric kind of mental benefit. So there's a lot of literature, and when I say literature, I kind of mean like indirect scientific evidence through human studies on people that are both relatively untrained and trained. So people that have experience with exercise and people that don't, that show markers of particular hormones or something that you might be able to pull out in your blood, in your urine, or the types of stools that you pass, the brain chemistry. There's literally, I could rattle off 24 objective markers that people could use that say movement is medicine in some small way. Like we can all pretty much agree with that. But the key here is I want to disconnect to that part, because it's more rational thinking to people that like to feel what they're doing. And this is where the mentality part comes in. You don't really see the mental health aspect aside from the chemistry, because it happens so slowly. It catches up to you a lot more slowly. 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years of being in some sort of groove with focusing on your health and fitness. You'll look back and say, wow, I've had all of the acute help from the healthy workouts, but then I've had the gradual buildup of, like you said, Angela, my self-esteem. I feel better. I have more confidence. I'm able to go out there. So the social health aspect, the stress on that suddenly becomes a lot smaller. So just kind of by default, everything else in your life quality goes up higher. And so for someone that doesn't really want to focus on numbers and is worried about, like the science and all that, just focus on how it makes you feel. And if you keep it even qualitatively like that, use it as your guide. If you stay consistent, you'll notice that it does nothing but help your mental health. You start to you start to build a repertoire of evidence for your confidence. It's real. It's not fake anymore. That's the distinction I wanted to make there, and motivate people to get that started, because that's why people say start now, day one, not one day, because now, 6 months from now, a year from now, you'll have all that evidence built up and you're just continuing to build momentum. And maybe I should end on this point instead. It's easy for us to get thrown off with our momentum, right, guys? Like, we don't know when a symptom or a flare is going to come up out of nowhere. And so we need that momentum built up, because it's only going to put us 3, 4, 5 steps back. And all we want to do is get one step ahead, every couple of weeks, every month, slowly, slowly, slowly. So if you're already cued there mentally, boom, you can pivot. All right, I had a bad 2 weeks, but I'm not going to let it get me down. I already know what I need to get back into. I have that built up confidence and evidence. This may sound foreign to someone who hasn't done this, but I hope, maybe you guys can give some more insight, so I don't feel so alone on this.
I appreciate you sharing that. And I will say you're the expert in that area, in terms of fitness and all of the different avenues as far as benefit. But it made me, just listening to you talk, it made me think even about what people call the happy hormones. There are certain hormones that are increased that even physically make you feel well, but it's derived from the mental, right? Those chemicals that are released. And so in turn, if there were someone who was experiencing more feelings of depression, with exercise, you would notice that there would be a boost in your mood because of the different hormones that are released, like serotonin, dopamine, those kinds of things, those happy hormones. I don't know if that added to, but I just wanted to give you a thumbs up. That's exactly what that made me think of.
For sure. I don't want to take it for granted that the people at home have heard of any of these terms or know anything about this. She's referring to part of the objective science-based stuff that I was talking about. Like, we can measure those levels in your blood and in your brain and stuff. And so it's not just like, I feel better and I'm not sure why. Like, no, it's because you went and exercised. Don't worry. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. The stuff you say, Nick, because like you say, I think it just raises that awareness of people who don't know about that stuff. And probably some of us here as well. Would you mind, Nick? Because I know you said at the start about being in the army. Would you mind? Because I don't think everyone here has that experience of being in the army. Especially those of us here today. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about that, about your experience and how that affected your mental health?
Sure. I'll try to keep it short. I wasn't expected to get asked that today, but I guess I can sum it up by saying there wasn't really a focus on it at all. And we're mostly there to fend for ourselves. And I wonder how much that played into developing the symptoms and getting my diagnosis while I was actually in the service. The second year of training prepares you for their version of basic training, right? So everyone pictures basic training like from the movies where you get yelled at, you've got to run through the mud, you get woken up at, ungodly hours in the morning and you're falling asleep standing up. Well, in ROTC, at least for the Air Force, they do that for 2 semesters, a full calendar school year of kind of like that mini environment off and on all throughout the week to get you prepared to go do that for 2 months straight. This was what, 2013, 14, and 15. And there was a much more of a focus on making sure you were prepared for the mission than what your mental state was. And they had resources and stuff there, if you wanted to go talk to somebody or get looked at like by a medical professional, they could refer you out or go on campus or anything like that. But it just wasn't discussed. And unfortunately, even that early on, you could tell that there was a kind of like a subgroup of people within the detachment that had I don't know how else to call them, unhealthy coping mechanisms, basically immediately. And I can see some of those friends now that are my age and are still in and are dealing with the same things that have just made it worse, and not kind of nipped the bud when we saw it was starting to go on back in at university. I'll keep it there and keep it short. I don't know if you have any other questions around it, but it just wasn't really a focus. And I think you can tell just kind of by my tone that I'm glad I'm not in anymore.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you for sharing, Nick, because I'm not sure if we've actually sort of, I know previously, I don't know if we've actually spoke about that before. So it's not nice. It's not nice that then your mental health wasn't taken seriously. It's more like just like being for the mission, like as you say. Um, because I think the army is very how do we say this, not accepting of different things. Because I remember I have a friend that applied for the army and did all the things beforehand, because there's loads of stuff you got to do before you actually get in it. And what happened was, yeah, what happened was, because they said they had autism when it came to the last part of the stage, that they had autism, and they said you can't be in the army because you have autism. And I think there's a massive stigma in the army. So it's still now. So yeah, it's good that you did get out of it in the end. If you wouldn't mind me asking, Nick, how long was you doing that with the army?
It was right around 2 years. I signed up coming out of high school because I didn't know how else I was going to pay for college, and I was completely healthy at the time, but I wasn't a great athlete, so I was kind of somewhere between. I knew I could physically stand up to the difficult training. I was wondering about it mentally, and I needed to pay for school, so I just stopped wondering and signed on the dotted line. You know, you raise your right hand and say the whole oath and everything. It wasn't until the second year though that it started to get really intense, because the first year they're very welcoming. Oh yeah, let's get a big class, 300 or 400 young cadets coming in. You don't have to wear uniforms yet. You're not waking up super early just yet. So they kind of slowly work you in. The second year, that's where it gets really stressful. You're in charge of everything. They're in your face. I don't know if you've heard the phrase knife handing. They're knife handing you in the face, yelling at you the one brim's length away with the hat, that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's even the upperclassmen, the seniors that are running things, that are the other ones doing this. So it's basically your friends and peers. It's such a strange dynamic. I was preparing for their version of basic training, but I didn't get discharged until right at the last second, at the end of that second year. So it was about 6 or 7 months that I was starting to get sick and developing the symptoms, losing weight and trying to keep my job and everything. So I'm not sure if maybe they were allowing me to continue on and finish that year out, knowing that I was still on scholarship at the time. I was scared that I was going to have to pay back the stipend and everything that they had helped me with, which was a big part of the mental health struggle. But luckily, they just said, you're free to go. You don't have to worry about any of this. We were going to put you on active duty, but because you're quote unquote unreliable physically, we can't have you continue in the program anymore. And so I battled with that, and none of the other branches wanted me. I couldn't become like a first responder, like, police or fire brigade, something like that. And so as like a young man trying to find his place in the world, my mental health was shattered, but then also kind of my feelings of being able to provide some masculinity, stuff like that. And if I may, kind of gearing towards that in another direction, I've noticed in particular the males in this space of chronic illness really do have a problem with the way that they're able to provide for themselves and maybe a partner. It may be old school fashioned thinking, but you don't really realize it until you're thrust into barely able to take care of yourself, that you realize, oh gosh, all my friends are able to do this and they don't have a care in the world. So where does that put me? And so you feel like your social status is all thrown off. And just from getting sick and getting kicked out, right? I had that whole cascade, and mentally I had to try to make peace with that and pivot. And that's when I got more involved in academia, and they're much more accepting, much more open to alternative approaches to get the job done. Let's just say that. I
Yeah.
came in with a militant mindset, and they're like, "Whoa, man, relax."
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Nick. Because it's very interesting to hear about your own experience, how it affected you. Because it's not nice. It's not nice when we hear about bad stories, but if we don't talk about them, it may help other people if they want to go into that side of work. But now you're doing the better things with yourself and stuff like that. So guys, I guess finally, because we spoke about a lot, and yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in reverse order. Just if you want to say anything, like maybe any advice about mental health in general, maybe. As I think Angela called it total health. We just call it total health because it's just everything, not just one particular thing. Even though we spoke about a lot about fitness today, but just if any of you have any advice about mental health in general. So, Kitty, I'll start with you.
All right. So obviously my advice would be obviously look out for one another, always checking on your loved ones, because, well, it could really save a life. And obviously if you're in that stage where obviously like you don't want to leave the house, obviously just try your best, like get out there, because it could really help you be a better person. It could keep you all healthy. But yeah, like what I said, just look out for each other, because obviously someone could be suffering, because obviously they could seem all happy and everything, but that doesn't mean, oh yeah, like they're not suffering, they're fine. No, it's like wearing a mask, like they're hiding it because obviously they might feel embarrassed, but there is nothing to be embarrassed. Like if you're not okay, don't be afraid to speak up, because it is completely normal if you're not feeling okay. Like there is, like, us people, and there's everyone else out there, we have days where it's not going all good and everything. That's completely normal. There's nothing to be ashamed about it. So if you are suffering and you don't know what to do, please, like, speak to someone, because it could really help you become a better person, and obviously be who you are. Just be yourself.
Yeah, I really good advice there, Kitty, because it's all very important. Like you say, it's okay to be at home. It's okay to go on the PlayStation, and it's nice and fun. But as well, it is like I was the same. Like throughout lockdown, I was just inside all the time. I guess because I got told to be inside all the time. But at the same time, I didn't do anything. I was just on the PlayStation all the time, talking to friends. But yeah, very important advice there. So Nick, do you have any last words? But any advice that you want to say?
Sure. I definitely learned a lot today. It was great to talk with you guys. I hope people at home got something out of this. My last piece of advice would be to keep it simple. Start small, something that works for you, something that you can build up that confidence with. And if you are stuck on what that something might be, reach out to us. That's all. We're here for you guys.
Thanks, Nick. Really good advice too. Angela, do you have any final words?
I do. I want to just share with the listeners and the viewers, do whatever you can just to move your body. Maybe it's dance, fitness, maybe it's parking at the farthest parking space at Walmart. I like what Nick said, just start right there, start simple and move your body, get some level of movement in there and just build on that. You don't have to start with a full set of weights. And I know there's someone out there listening, there's someone out there viewing who has felt intimidated in terms of exercise or fitness or even socializing or being around people. So that definitely the social anxiety may even be a factor, but do what you're most comfortable with. And always, I like to say, You do not have to suffer in silence. A lot of times we highlight support or even emergency or crisis lines when there is a national or world fatality. You do not have to suffer in silence. Maybe you have reached out for help. Now there is a simple number, which is 988, which is a crisis helpline. If you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling helpless, if you're feeling alone, dial 988. That's for the US. So for the UK, it's 111. I usually have a full list of different countries and different areas. I wish I had that with me today, but for the representation that's here, the USA and UK, you've got 988, and then you've got 111. So hopefully we can post some of the others after this live broadcast, and hang in there. We are here to support you.
Thank you, Angela. Whenever you send me, like, whenever you normally say those numbers, they always reminds me of like a TV show where you're they've all performed, and at the end you go, oh 776. All those numbers at the end. Call, do it for. What's it? They always do it at the end, don't they? On like if you've got X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, X Factor's not anymore, but Big Brother, you could even say. So it all reminds me of that whenever you say it, because it's like that. Like I said, everyone
On our
laughing.
version, it's hit 1 for Mason, 2 for Nick.
Yeah, that'd be funny. But yeah, to anyone listening, watching, call those numbers if you need support, need help. We're always available for you to contact us as well if you want to talk to us. Don't have to. You can if you want. But yeah, to anyone listening, watching, we hope you've enjoyed today on the second special in October. Soon be Halloween, then Christmas, then next year. We're going this year's going really fast. But thanks to Angela, thanks to Nick, thanks to Kitty for coming on today, and hope you guys enjoyed it as much as anyone else who liked it as well. But yeah, we'll see you in the next episode, the next special episode. But thanks to everyone today, and see you next time.